49% of small business owners expect a recession by the fourth quarter of 2025. And with the recession comes the inevitable squeeze of cash and access to cash by banks. So you may be wondering, what do I do and how do I access cash if my business line of credit gets frozen? Hi, I'm Olivia Kirk.
I'm Tim Yurek. We're from Tier 1 Capital, and we're here to show you how to regain control of your money. During an economic downturn, things happen that are outside of our control. And one of the things is that banks start pulling in their reins, meaning that they start positioning themselves for an eventual, as they see it, economic downturn. And how do they do that? Well, one of the first things they'll do is they'll freeze your credit line. So what does it mean when your credit line is frozen? Let's say you have a $100,000 credit line and you have $60,000 borrowed out against that credit line. The first thing they'll do is they'll say you can no longer use the other $40,000 of equity on that credit line. So what that means is you're frozen at $60,000. The next thing they'll do is they'll say, hey, and by the way, you were paying interest only on that loan. We want you to make principal and interest payments. So now they're going to require you to pay not only the monthly interest, but also making a principal reduction payment as well. And what does that do to your cash flow?
It squeezes it, and it squeezes it real tight. Is it any wonder that 82% of small businesses fail due to lack of capital and lack of cash flow?
And think about it. These were things that were outside of your control. You may have been current on every one of your payments. You may have never missed a payment. You may have never been late on any payments. It doesn't matter. The banks see things differently in the economy, and consequently, they're tightening things up. They're turning off the faucet, if you will, to your access of capital. And that's one of the major downsides of being dependent upon banks for access to capital.
Yeah, not to mention during a recession, 30 to 50% of loan applications get denied by banks. So, first you lose that access to capital in your credit line, which is usually, for a lot of business owners, the easiest place for them to get their hands on money. Now you can't even go out and get another loan because the economy changed, and now your position looks less favorable and too risky to the bank.
So thus far, we've talked about the problems of what occurs or what's going to happen if your credit line gets frozen. Now we want to discuss what you can do in advance to position yourself, your family, and your business to no longer be a victim of these external circumstances, but more importantly, position you so that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are created because of lack of access to capital.
And if you don't take these steps, you'll never see those opportunities. You'll be so bogged down by the stress that comes with this tightening of capital and tightening of cash flow that you won't be able to lift your head above water to see the opportunities. Whereas if you take the steps now to prepare yourself to be in a strong position, a strong capital position during those times of recession, you're going to be in a position where you're able to take advantage of these opportunities that no one else in your market is going to be able to take advantage of.
And that's why it's so important to view things through the lens of you being in control. Because let's face it, you got into business because you wanted to be in control of your own destiny. And then you soon found out you're not in control of the access to capital issue because you're dependent on banks. And banks, there's an old saying, a banker is somebody who will sell you an umbrella when it's sunny and then take it back when it starts to rain. And boy, is that true. I have seen over my 40 years of experience, many economic upturns and many economic downturns. And when those downturns occur, the banks tighten things up, freeze your credit line, limit your access to capital, put you in a position where they're almost forcing you to fail. Why? Because they want to protect themselves.
It all starts with some simple shifts. The first thing is to build a pool of capital that you have full liquidity, use, and control over. And a simple way to do that is redirecting extra payments that you were paying to the bank into this pool of money.
You know, there's other things you can do. Most people, the majority of their savings is in qualified retirement plans. Well, what does that mean? You have limited access. You know, most of your savings, if it's in a 401k, you could only take the lesser of $50,000 or half of your account balance as far as a loan. Well, that's limiting your access to capital. You also have to pay it back within a 5-year period. That limits or dries up some of your cash flow. So, to your point, saving money in a place where you have complete liquidity, use, and control. And there's that word again, control. We view things through the lens of you being in control. And when you're in control, you have access to capital.
Right. So we're not saying draw money out of your 401k or IRA, but rather direct some of those payments towards a place where you have liquidity instead of a place where that money is locked up until you meet certain requirements to access it.
And another thing you can do is to stop paying cash for major purchases and squirrel some of that money away, because it puts you in greater control of your money. And that's the point.
Right. And if you have the money on the side, you have access to that money to pay that loan back if you want. It's not impacting your net worth, but it is increasing your ability to access that money and control that money all along the way. And you get to choose when and how much the bank is getting, instead of the opposite being true, giving the bank all of your money and then needing to ask permission to access it again, and possibly being denied, especially in times of economic downturn. If you'd like to learn more about how to prepare yourself for when the bank freezes your line of credit, visit our website at tier1capital.com to schedule your free strategy session today. Also, if you like this video, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and check out these two. We picked them out special for you.
Thank you so much for watching our video. And remember, it's not how much money you make.
It's how much money you keep that really matters. We'll see you in the next one.